Joseph, we had you on a short time ago to talk about government funding. This time, things are a little bit different. I want to begin by talking about how we got here. This time, the focus really centers on the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Trump administration's aggressive fashion of pursuing people in the country illegally. Talk more about that, where this funding is, and why this has become such a loggerhead here in Congress.
Well, certainly, your reporter alluded to it. The public is really soured on a lot of these images that came out of Minneapolis. Border agents, ICE agents chasing people down the streets, holding children at literal hostage point, trying to evict a lot of people. Staging these operations that really didn't net the violent criminals that President Trump said that they were going after. So that was sticking point number one. Number two was after the homicides of Alex Preddy and Renee Good. That really exploded the situation. And you had a stalemate where Donald Trump was trying to dig in and insist that this operation was necessary, while Congress and Democrats and the public were saying, wait a minute, what's really happening here? Those people that died were American citizens, and they didn't die, it seemed, in aggressive confrontation with ICE agents. That aggression was seemed only one-sided, and that's why Democrats in Congress decided to buck up and use what leverage they had to force ICE to come to heel by restricting spending and by forcing another shutdown.
Okay, so this is being portrayed as a showdown between the Democrats and the White House, with the Dems digging in their heels, saying they will not continue to let DHS operate the way that it has been operating. But we just heard very powerful Senator Rand Paul, a chairman of the committee there, saying, look, he has big questions about this. Do you believe the Republicans are going to come to Trump's aid on this issue?
It's hard to tell. I mean, a lot of Republicans silently and behind the scenes agree with Democrats that these images coming out of Minneapolis and the overall posture of ICE really is untenable. The American public agrees with that as well. And with the midterms looming, you would imagine that a lot of Republicans rather, would break ranks rather than risk their own seats. Now, that kind of heat has not really bubbled to the surface just yet, although you can imagine that it's starting to stir underneath, especially as these poll numbers come out, especially as Democrats continue to have success in special elections and really score points in districts that Republicans had a hammerlock on. So it would behoove them to try to pay attention, but it really doesn't seem like we've got a lot of movement. Obviously, there may be some behind the scenes, but we're not seeing it just yet.
Okay, so presuming the two sides, the White House and Democrats, cannot come to a measure that satisfies all parties by Saturday, what is going to happen to the government? What is going to happen to DHS?
Well, they included a fail-safe in the last posture that they were at a couple of weeks ago, back in December, where after the government shut down and it looked like this was coming, they carved out an agreement, the Republicans and the Democrats, that said, we're going to fund everything else except Department of Homeland Security. So that means the Social Security checks will come, the military is going to get paid. The only agency that's not going to get its due is going to be the Department of Homeland Security. Now, that encompasses not just ICE and Border Patrol, but the Coast Guard, the TSA agents at airports. So if the shutdown continues, we're going to see some bottlenecks and loggerheads in transportation agencies, in some Coast Guard patrols. All those people will still have to show up for work without getting paid. Now, what the Democrats want to do is really hone in on ICE and on the Border Patrol agents that are doing all of this, but there's going to be some spillover effects. It's not going to be as widespread as it was during the last record-breaking shutdown, but certainly there's going to be a little bit of pain inflicted on the public, and the Democrats hope that will be enough leverage, along with these poor headlines, along with the dismal polling numbers, for Republicans to force them back to the table and really make some changes here.
Joe, think back to before the election, because Donald Trump had a clear mandate from his supporters, and there were millions of them who went to the polls, go after the worst of the worst in this country, illegals. So how did things get so sidetracked? Something like 78% of the people that they've been arresting have no record of any kind except for being in the country illegally. So what does this do to the ICE operation?
And a fair number of American citizens who were stopped and corralled and taken to detention centers. Now, during the campaign, Donald Trump, in fact, did promise to go after the worst of the worst. But once he got into office, that definition kind of changed. Anyone who was here illegally was categorized as a criminal. So, in Donald Trump's viewpoint, and in ICE's viewpoint, anybody who doesn't have legitimate papers to be in the United States is therefore, by definition, a criminal alien. And that's the language that they've been using to try to execute all these sweeps. Donald Trump also put a quota on the
Mhm.
number of people he wanted to deport. He wanted to deport 1 million people in 1 year, which really raised the stakes for DHS and Homeland Security to try to match those numbers. They were cutting corners. They were showing up at Home Depot parking lots.
Right.
They were raiding farms, et cetera, just to meet those numbers. So Donald Trump can plausibly say he kept his promise. That's where the Republicans and the Democrats both kind of looked askance, but only the Democrats decided that they wanted to do something because they're the out party and they really have no truck with President Trump. But the problem here is that while the Democrats are trying to exact some leverage by
Okay.
getting body cameras and by changing ICE's behavior, the larger problem still remains, and that's Donald Trump's immigration and border control agenda that still mandates these harsh tactics to meet the numbers that he has not budged on since this crisis began.